We are live. Today, I have a very special guest. Does not need an introduction. Dan Coe is on the podcast. Thanks for coming on, man.
Of course, dude. It's been fun. I'm sure we'll talk about this somewhere in there, but just having you in Cortex, like us being on a very similar page, I'm sure we have some good shit to talk about.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this one for a while, so it should be fun. But the first question I wanted to ask you is based off the first question you would always ask guests on your
Mm.
podcast when you used to do the podcast. So the question is, what is your life philosophy in one sentence, but with a catch? So has your life philosophy evolved since you used to do podcasts when you were the host 2, 3 years ago?
I'd say the wording around it has evolved, but it's always had the same meaning, where the way that I frame it right now is just work less, earn more, enjoy life. And there's a lot to unpack there with all of the things that I talk about. But work less is pretty much find work that you deem enjoyable, or create is a much better word for that. Create work that you deem enjoyable and that you see yourself doing, because one, I find the notion of like perpetual rest after retirement to be kind of stupid in my eyes. Like, I don't like how people make the distinction between work and rest the way that they do, where work is something that you have to show up for 8 hours a day. It's something that you're almost destined to hate. And rest is kind of just seen as like shutting off from work, right? It isn't actual rest. It's just distracting yourself or numbing your mind from the work to come. And that just seems like a very terrible way to live, which is work doing something you hate, spend the rest of the time hiding from something that you hate, and then sleep. And that's your entire life repeated for 40 years until retirement when you finally get to take a break. But it's like going on vacation. If you've ever been on vacation for anything more than, let's say, 2 weeks to a month, you're either starting a new lifestyle there and introducing work there, or you get tired of it and you want to go home and you want to work again. It's not that work and rest are two separate things. They're the ebb and flow of life itself. Like, you do not want to work. You want to work on something meaningful, and you want to complement that with rest.
Hmm.
And so earn more is just the byproduct of like, you need money to survive. Like, money isn't something to be demonized. Money is fairly spiritual in my eyes. It's energy transfer. In the right circumstances, you receive money for the value that you give to the world. You receive money for the levels of problems that you solve. And with that, I can't answer the question of, oh, can everyone become a millionaire? Maybe. Money is kind of just printed. I don't really know how it works. Do I know that more people that have the dedication and focus to make more money, can they? Yes, 100%. Can they create a better life for themselves? Can they gain the minimum amount of money required to satisfy their survival so that they can pursue personal development, creative work, and other things that make life meaningful? Yes, 100%. And then last thing, enjoy life is just the byproduct of both of those things, rounding out the philosophy.
I love that. Yeah, that message has been so influential on me over the past year and a half or so. And so I think a lot of people are attracted to your content and your thinking because you make them aware of things that they've known internally, but nobody's ever put into words, which is so cool to hear. And so for me in college, I was kind of unconsciously following the script. Like I was on the trajectory to high paying corporate finance job, etc. And I started to see the people that were 10 years older than me, 20 years older than me in the company. And what I noticed
Mm.
is all they talked about during the workday was like the desire to escape after work or like the weekend desire to escape. Or even during work, it was like always talking about these superficial things like talking about the new sports contract, talking about celebrity drama, etc.
Yeah.
And it's this constant cycle of just escaping, escaping, escaping. And I realized like, holy shit, I'm scared as hell of that. And so after just diving into your content and deciding to take this stuff seriously, like within 6 months, I went from in college on the trajectory towards that internship, towards that career, to creating my own career via the internet, which is absolutely wild. And so the question I have for you here is, so many people look to you as the inspiration for creating their own work, running a one person business, working 3 to 4 hours a day, etc. You've pioneered this one person business philosophy, but I'm curious, were you looking to somebody ahead of you when you were starting off 4 or 5 years ago? Or was it all innovation?
Uh, I I would definitely be lying if I said it was all innovation. Um, but it would definitely be hard to pinpoint someone in specific who has like given me that philosophy. The philosophy was definitely like cultivated from a lot of people over time, right? It's like I read a book, okay, that kind of shapes a bit of it. I read another book a year later, that shapes a bit of it. I still don't really know what I'm doing. I read another book. Okay, one thing clicks there. It starts to make sense. Oh, I'm learning these skills because I was on a similar trajectory and I was like, I need to learn every skill imaginable. Like the more skills I learn, which many people write off as shiny object syndrome, the more skills that I learn, the more understanding that I have of the domain of, let's say, just the internet, the more likely I am to actually succeed, or at least receive the opportunity to succeed, or perceive the opportunity to succeed. Where if I don't have these skills, how do I put this in the right way? When I'm scrolling social media, I would argue that 80% of the posts you see is a work opportunity. 100%. I mean, 80% of the time, 80% of the time, the posts that you see are work opportunities. And the only reason you miss them is because you don't have the skills are mental, that allow you to actually perceive that as a business opportunity. Like someone complaining about how they aren't productive, or someone like you see a post with high engagement about how web design is a good skill to learn, but you haven't learned that skill, and the engagement pretty much validates that idea. So you're not seeing that as, oh, web design is good, I should create a product around it, I should create a software around it, I should create a service around it, I should create something around it so that I can break free of the product that I'm selling for someone else right now. I need to do my own thing. So uh reel me back in. Oh, okay. People that have influenced what I have done. Justin Welsh introduced me to the one person business concept. I studied his stuff a bit and I've talked with him, but I wouldn't say that I'm like a massive consumer of, let's say, his like newsletters or his courses. I like his content, and he's a good friend, good guy, great guy. But he kind of just introduced me to the concept and I'm like, damn, that's really good. And I started to write about it, and then I realized I have a very unique take on this. Like I have a way of explaining this through my own experience that works really well and people really resonate with. So he definitely introduced me to that concept in terms of like the 4 hour work day, and kind of going back to the conversation we had in person. I think those are going to be the first two books of the like 3 book series that I was going to do. It's going to be like one, two, three, where it's the one person business, the 4 hour workday, the 3 pillars of the good life, wrapping it all together, and then including that in a box. But Tim Ferriss, 4 hour work week. Again, I never read the book. Like I felt like I was just very good on picking up on like these little ideas stuck in my head, like the 4 hour work week. Never read the book, but I'm like, oh, okay. Someone wrote a book on this. It must be possible. So one person's doing it, therefore it is possible, and I can replicate that. And so as I started working on these things and read the book Rest by Alex Sujung Kimpong, I kind of realized 4 hours of work a day seems to be the sweet spot for most people that I talk to, especially very high level entrepreneurs that aren't in the hustle and grind. Like they don't, there's people that enjoy working 12 hours a day. That's great. That's like their lifestyle. I'd say that most people don't want to do that, even if it's really meaningful work. For 4 hours a day, seeming like the sweet spot, and psychological data to back that, balanced out with rest, real rest, then that shaped the 4 hour workday philosophy. And then my own experience of just always having the drive to like build every part of my life or live the best life possible.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know, I've always wanted to just become like the most elite person in the least cocky way. It's just like, I have this body, I have this mind, I'm supposed to form relationships, I can build a business. Like, why am I not doing all of these things? Why am I sitting here on my phone scrolling? And usually that's just a lack of clarity or not knowing how to do it. But that kind of answers the question. So I'll shoot it back to you.
Yeah, that's great. There's so many different directions I could take that. The one piece you said about like I want to become elite in all aspects, I see that as just like holistic self-actualization, which I want to come
Yeah.
back to for sure. But I want to double click a little bit on this 4 hour idea because I've been per your videos, per all the stuff I've learned, 4 hours for me, such a sweet spot. And I think I've uncovered why. So on the one hand, if you limit yourself to 4 hours, and you want to grow in business and like earn more money, scale your
Mm,
income, you have no
yeah,
choice but to build the systems and the leverage to make it happen. But if you,
exactly.
it's like work expands to the amount of time we allot for it. And if you give
Mm,
yourself 14 hours a day, you're never forced to think creatively about how to how to develop these systems to gain leverage. And so that's why I see on one hand it's crucial. The other hand, if you want to holistically self actualize. You want to be in good shape, have high energy, be able to study multidisciplinary things, learn different skills, follow your curiosity. And you're working 14 hours a day, you don't have time. So if you have four and you go on walks and you're resting and you're in the gym and you're eating good, everything just starts to combine. And so I think what's necessary with the 4 hours is increasing the amount of skill you have within those 4 hours. And so something that I'm kind of at a crossroads between right now is my strengths are creativity, writing, and speaking. However, I see a bottleneck right now in the progression of my business as the ability to shorten the gap between idea and execution. So, like the other night, I was having creative ideas like insane about new lead magnet, new product, new landing page, all this stuff. But I'm not equipped with the skills of web design, landing page creation, etc. And
mm,
so there's this quote from Scott Adams. He says, every skill you add to your skill stack doubles your odds of success. And so if I look at you from an objective outside viewpoint, the reason why you've gotten so far ahead of everybody else is because you know all the skills and you can just iterate and implement them in real time. So I'm curious the boundary between, okay, I know what I'm really good at. Should I just double down on what I'm good at and delegate? Or should I equip myself with all the modern skills so I can take as much action as quick as possible?
yeah. I have a few things to say there. So I'm going to just say this so that I can come back to it and hopefully like keep the idea in my mind. Um, but like before branching out to actually hiring people, I do think it's very important that you do have a general understanding of the skill. Like skill acquisition in my eyes is big picture understanding. Like you don't need the technical details just yet. You need to understand how all of the pieces work together. And that is a skill in its own. But like if you're hiring someone and you aren't able to kind of be the person that guides them to use their skill in alignment with what you're trying to do, then that may fall short. But one thing you said, and either one of us are going to have to write about this, but you said work expands to uh, fill the time allotted or whatever it is. But expansion is only the first step of like evolution, right? Because you expand, you transcend, and you include. So it's like not only does work expand to fill that time, it also evolves to fill that time. So transcends, you leverage, right? So if it can't expand any further, then your only job is to evolve what you're actually doing to fill that same amount of time. So in order to get more results, it's not about adding more hours to your day that you're working. It's about using those hours in a more leveraged way or in a more evolved fashion. So as an example, to solidify this for people because it may go over their heads, you have to either one, choose a better career so that you can actually do this. Because if you're working a job, then this isn't going to apply to you in most cases. Like you aren't just going to be able to cut your work hours in half and then like leverage your work. Maybe if you hire freelancers to do your job for you, if you have a very high paying job, I know people that were like in cybersecurity or tech. I don't know if it was cybersecurity, but they would just hire like cheap overseas freelancers to do their job for them. And then it was remote work and they just wouldn't show up for work. It's like having people do your homework and not showing up to class. So yeah, you can probably do that if you want to, if you're smart about it, and then start building your own thing. But for me, it's like with web design, I had client work. And so people with client businesses, they're going to be like, well, I have all of these clients. I can't work less than 4 hours. Then you need to evolve past client work, right? And so a way to do that in most cases, we're going to be talking about social media growth and audience building because that is the highest leverage. You're going to build an audience so that you can eventually productize your service into a cohort or digital product so you can take on less clients and you can still earn that income in a more leveraged way. And you don't have to use your time to fulfill on client work. So then if I'm writing for 2 hours a day, that's my main lever. That's growing my social medias across the board, even YouTube, because I write my scripts. The larger my audience gets, the more income I make simply because of the products and services that I give to my audience that they value and helps change their life. This isn't like, oh, I'm building an audience only to sell to you. That's one part of it. There isn't only one reason behind like you doing anything. There's a multitude of reasons. So that's the thing. Like you have to evolve what you're doing to fill the 4 hours for the 4 hour workday. And if that consists of writing, delivering on whatever your project is right now, managing a team, whatever it may be, then do that. But I just thought that was an interesting connection there. But to talk about like skill acquisition, I personally think that you should learn more. Like if you have to work longer or learn longer, technically that's not really working if you're learning, but I would spend the time learning and practicing the skill, and it's going to take a bit longer at first, but eventually you're going to know all of these different things where dude, I can launch a product in like a week. Like I think this also attributes to the 4 hour workday is that I'm a very big, like productive procrastinator or procrastinating productive person, whatever you would put it as. And I feel like more people need to lean into this because it truly is powerful, where you set a deadline for whatever it is that you're doing. If I'm launching a product on like in 2 weeks, and I know that it's going to take me around 1 to 2 weeks to actually build the product or do the promotions, like I wait. Like I'm not going to do anything before that. And then leading up to that, yeah, I feel a lot more stressed out, but that stress aids in flow and the deadline aids in flow and the clarity on what I need to do because of my prior skill acquisition aids in flow. And then I just build it out. And those are usually my best launches because that's when my brain is just this vessel for building the project and everything that I'm thinking about, everything that I'm learning, et cetera, is all just going into the project. So technically, if I didn't have any maintenance tasks and I was just launching products, like I would have less than the 4 hour work week. I'd have like the 4 hour work week once a month, right? And
Four
that would
hour
be
work
it.
month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be the book. No, that's
Right.
super amazing. I've noticed that in my own journey throughout, especially the past 3, 4 months, is like the key with setting some deadline, I feel like, is making it public and like putting it out there and having people expecting something from you.
Yeah.
Because for me, I remember it was back November 6th. I announced I'm going to release this free performance product on November 13th in a week. I had no videos recorded, I had no slides made. I didn't know how to use Kartra. I didn't know how to set up anything. But during those 7 days when I was working like 12 hours a day, which I recognize that it's just a period, it's going to come back to
Mhm.
normal. It was like the greatest flow state ever. And the stress you talk about is like the stress is only bad if we label it as bad. You can channel it into positive change. And for everybody out there that like is more curious, like how does Dan do all this stuff? Okay, I've been seeing it behind the scenes at Cortex. And like your speed of iteration is absolutely insane. Like it's like every day there's an iteration, every day there's a change. And so I think it speaks to this theme of evolution because you said you need to evolve in your work. And so a theme I've been thinking about and a theme I see people get stuck in is pigeonholing themselves into a niche or into one model without giving themselves the space to pivot. And I actually think
Mm.
it's almost like a spiritual problem or a problem with identity because you get into the game, you self-identify as a copywriter or as a web designer or as an email marketer, and you're like, this is who I am, this is what I do. But by putting that label on yourself and like attaching your entire identity to it, you don't give yourself the space to pivot. But in this game, if you want to evolve, like you have to become multi-dimensional and multidisciplinary. So, like, how could you give advice to somebody who's potentially starting off? They just have one skill, one service. How can they start to pivot outside of that and become more broad without losing their perceived authority within that skill?
Yeah. It's hmm, without losing their perceived authority. I don't think you really lose authority. Like once you have something in place, you need an authority asset. We'll call it an AA. You need an authority asset that continuously builds authority for you, whether that's a pin thread where it's like, oh, people come to my profile and all I have, like, I'm not selling in my bio. Like, I'm not talking about my skill all the time because I recommend to go broad. I'm sure you do too. But, um, the thing there is like, well, nobody knows what I'm selling right off the bat. And it's like, that's not the point, dude. You're building a social media audience. This isn't like you're in the Facebook ads platform targeting a very specific audience that already knows what problem they have or know what skill they're trying to like learn more or whatever you're trying to sell them. In social media, you're just attracting random people, right? You're attracting random people with heavy hitting messages as content, and then you're nurturing them to help them understand the importance of the skill that you are selling as a freelance service or as a course or whatever it may be. So when people go to your profile, you're not optimizing for sales, you're optimizing for followers that can eventually be turned into customers. This isn't about attracting customers straight from the timeline. This is about turning them into it. So pin thread on Twitter or pin post on Instagram or story highlights on Instagram or something like that. It needs to be advice related to the thing that you're selling from a very beginner level. So if I teach about web design or sell a course on web design or sell web design services, I'm going to go very broad and beginner level, like top of funnel. So then eventually I can narrow them in. So the thread is going to be uh, why web design is the most important skill if you want to start a business in 2024. And then I go into the thread, I write the thread, give reasons why, teach people a bit. And then at the bottom, I have a lead magnet or blog post that goes into the next step in the funnel, which is like how to build a website in less than 2 hours, right? And then that can lead into your course. And at that point, you don't need to worry about posting anything related to your skill because you can just consistently plug the lead magnet that gets people in your newsletter. And I'm assuming your newsletter is going to talk some more about that skill. And you have your pinned thread. So people that visit your profile and check out what you do, they're going to be a bit higher on the awareness level of your skill. And it's, and then content can really be based around anything. I recommend mindset and skill set. So literally everything that you think about that is a good idea framed from whatever perspective you want to frame it from. Just take a social media course, practice writing with content templates for a bit, and you'll get the hang of it. It's not that complicated. And then you go forward from there.
Yeah.
Oh, and
You
in
can,
terms of broadening up, that's the thing is broadening up there, but you're framing everything through a philosophy. So that's the thing is my philosophy is work less, earn more, enjoy life. Any idea that I have that relates to that, whether it's my specific skill that I teach, which is writing or not, I'm going to post about it because either way, it can lead into writing. If I write a mindset about working less, that's technically not me teaching people how to write, but I can 100% plug something in there and be like, if you want to work less, learn to write. And then they go to my course and they buy. Like, it's just about transitioning and pivoting and like connecting the dots between your mind.
mm. Yeah, the way you can explain everything at such a deep level, like your understanding and specific knowledge of the space is crazy. And so, what I'm curious about is like, say, I know you've been asked this question on a podcast before, but I want to frame it differently. If you were starting from zero, not how would you get back to where you're at now, but how quickly, if you were starting from nothing, could you replace your income or like
Mm.
leave college and go all in? How quickly could you do it?
Oh man. Um, like, do I have a skill set?
Yes.
Yes, I have a skill set.
You have your current skill set and your current specific knowledge.
Oh,
How quickly could you replace your income if you were in a 9 to 5?
I mean a day. Like I'd say okay, I'll give myself more than that. I'd say 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
Like 2 to 3 days to I'll give me there's just randomness involved there. I'll say a week. A week just to like give some context. But there's multiple ways I would go about it. Um, a lot of which I talk about. We can
Yeah.
break some down.
I have a follow up with this too. So the reason I asked that is to prove a point that like the lack of an ability to monetize it's just skills problem. It's 100% a skills problem. And
Yeah.
so what I'm curious about is how can somebody shorten the learning curve to learning a new skill that would provide them the opportunity to leave their 9 to 5 job and do this full time?
I don't know if you can't shorten that learning curve because it's like I have all of the information, I have all of the experience I would need to fulfill on something and actually sustain the results. Like if I give a strategy right now, I'll go over it. But if I give the strategy and someone does it and they can't deliver results because they don't have the skill or they don't have a service or they don't have anything, like you can't skip steps in this. Like there is no I'm level 0 and if you're allowed so like in World of Warcraft, if you're allowed to fly at level 60, and let's say you're allowed to make money at level 60 of experience, there's no way that you can jump from level 0 to level 60 and learn and make money. Like there is no cheat code in life that allows you to do that. You can have one-offs. So the strategy that I would say is I would write a thread on Twitter around writing, why it's the best skill. I would fucking make it perfect. I would almost guarantee that it goes viral. I would reach out to 5 to 10 people and I would just connect with them. I'd just be like, hey, what's up, man? I like this tweet. Like, great to meet you. People that I actually want to connect with. And then one, I would ask them, hey, do you help with growth at all? We can dive into this because I don't think I actually don't think people care. But I would be like, hey, man, do you help with growth at all? I don't want to pay ads, and I'm not going to say this, but I don't want to pay for ads and not gain a following doing it and have it go to random people that don't care about me or my network. And like, do you offer paid growth? Like, what is your rates? If I'm writing a huge thread on writing, I think it'll be really valuable for your audience. It won't just be like a random spam post to your page that's like follower clickbait. It's genuine value that people will enjoy. The difference between ads, shout outs, and actually paid growth. That's why paid growth is better. You, and then I ask them, and they're like, oh, I'll do like you're cool. I like you. I'll do like $30 for one retweet or one comment or one like or all of the above. I do that 5 to 10 times. And now I've spent like $200. I have 10 people that are going to retweet my thread. I still have 0 followers. I'm going to post the thread. I'm going to send it to one at a time. Let's say 1 hour spaced out at a time so it can gain traction because on social media, people like things that have already been liked. People engage with things that have already been engaged with. If I have them all blasted at once and it has 0 likes, it's not going to get as much traction as if I let it build up to like 100, 200, 500 likes and then have the big boys retweet it and then it just flies because someone puts it on their page. They're like, oh, this has 500 likes. This must be a really good thread. Hopefully it is. You go through it, they learn about writing. I get, let's say, 500,000 to 1 million impressions on that thread. Let's say a fraction of that reach the bottom. Let's say a fraction of that pay me for a service or buy the course or the affiliate program. If I don't want to create a product, that's at the bottom of that. Uh, then I mean, just from previous launch days with that many impressions, I could make 5 to 10 to $50,000 from that thread alone. And that would take me one day to write, one day to actually execute on the strategy. And done correctly, I could make like, and then if I repeated that week after week, I could make my previous salary in a month.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The in-depth,
And that's like considering that everything goes well. If people try this and it doesn't work, you probably did something wrong.
mm,
Like it's not as simple as I'm saying of like write a thread. You need the skill of thread writing. Oh, have a promotion at the bottom. You need the skill of advertising. Oh, send them to a landing page with a course. You need the skill of copywriting. You need the skill of building a landing page. You need the skill of writing social media content. You need all of these skills. It's not as simple as me telling you to do it right now. Just want to preface with that.
yeah. And I think a really important point you made there is like there are actually no shortcuts or hacks. Like you have to go through the life experience to gain the specific knowledge. Like there's a really great article from Paul Graham. I think Matt from Cortex
Mm,
probably sent you some of his stuff. It's called The Lesson to Unlearn. And what it means is when we've been raised in the school system, like trying to get jobs, etc., we've been taught subconsciously to hack our way to success, right? Like you get homework from a friend, you cheat on the test so you get good grades, you cheat on the ACT
mhm.
looking on the person next to you so you can go to college, then in college you cheat so you can get the job. So you're just like you're training yourself to jump through these loops and hack rather than build something that actually is of value. And entrepreneurship is the ultimate game to unlearn this because you can't hack your way to providing value. You actually need to provide the value. Um, and so
Yeah.
something I see a lot of beginners as well get caught up on, as well as myself, is realizing that this game is actually kind of hard, right? If it was easy,
Mhm.
everybody would just be able to do it and they would have 500,000 followers and $1 million business, right? If it was easy, it wouldn't be worth it. And so when they come across this overwhelm, they freak out and they think something's wrong. And so I'm curious, how can somebody reframe overwhelm into a positive instead of seeing it as a sign that something has gone off track?
Yeah. There's a lot to uncover there where I feel like it's just a lack of perspective as to what you're doing. Like you started building this for some reason because you wanted to change your life or you wanted to just make more money or whatever the reason was. And the reason it's uncomfortable is because you stepped out of your comfort zone. It's as simple as that, right? So if you look back, what's more painful? What's more difficult? Being stuck in your comfort zone for the rest of your life? Zoom out 50 years. Which is more difficult? Which is more painful? It's going to be being stuck in your comfort zone for your entire life and not getting anywhere with your life and looking back with regret. You being uncomfortable now is the least, I wouldn't say least difficult. I would say it is much less riskier. It isn't as risky as like comfort in and of itself. So the frame here is that people are labeling things as difficult. Oh, this isn't easy. Oh, this is risky, with a lack of perspective as to what they're already doing in their life and how that isn't more risky, overwhelming, or other things. They've just become used to it and it's normal to them. So they can't like see it hiding under their nose. That's the main thing there is just a lack of perspective. They're saying, oh, this is so difficult when the life they've been living is more difficult. So they just need to zoom out and realize that. And once they stick it out and understand, it's all about zooming out to like the 10, 50 year time horizon of what's going to lead where. And if you can train your mind to almost live in that state of like, like my mind is open to the future, but focused on the present, that's where the magic happens rather than my mind is not really focused at all, honestly. It's distracted the entire time. So yeah,
That's a good tweet. My mind is open to the future but focused on the present. That's where the magic happens. That's a really good
yeah.
tweet. No, I love that. And I do see a lot with myself even sometimes, but also clients like their nose is too close to the paper. They're too attached to
Mm,
the day to day. Like they
yeah.
post a tweet, gets 2 likes. They're texting me like,
They're
I don't know,
freaking
like
out.
I'm
Yeah.
in such a rut. I don't know what's happening. Like I don't even know like where this is gonna go, etc. And it's like zoom out. Like if you like, we're not playing this personal brand game to become an overnight success, right? Maybe you'll become the perceived overnight success after 5 years, but what you didn't see is the 5 years under the surface. And so
Yeah.
the reason I love this personal brand game or even the one person business, just building yourself, is it's a game that you can play for the rest of your life. Like that was a big turning point for me, realizing that, okay, as a football player, I was going to peak at like 22 or 25, maybe if I was lucky. But as a writer, as a creative, as a thinker, as a speaker, you can play the whole game for the rest of your life. So I want to pivot this to your thinking right now because I know you think in the long term. Like right now, I think you're 27, 28. Yeah,
27, yeah.
27. Okay. You're still like in the grand scheme of things pretty young, even though you've done a
Mhm.
lot. Like, where do you see Dan Coe when he's 60 or 70 years old?
Dude, I have no fucking clue. Honestly, I have no clue. Like I can't even guess. Like I all I know is that I want good things. Like the things that are going to happen or the things that I want now for my future are going to change. And it's going to be completely different from any vision that I have for it. Like I can't even think that far because I don't really know what's possible beyond what I've done or what I'm doing. Like
Mm,
I see like this is I would say 10-year time horizon. I see Cortex potentially being a $1 billion company. I hope we'll fucking see. But and everything that comes along with that. So like I really like the idea that I believe Sahil Bloom exposed me to of anti-goals, where a lot of people frame it the wrong way, where it's not, this isn't what I want to achieve. Like it's not a goal that I don't want to achieve. It's I want to achieve this goal. So I want to reach $1 billion valuation of Cortex or $1 billion revenue. I don't know. But I don't want to sacrifice this along the way. That's
mm,
anti goals. So I don't want to sacrifice my days. I don't want to sacrifice my relationships. I don't want to sacrifice my health along the way to that goal. And that's what makes the game fun. Those are the limitations, the boundaries that allow for flow state, right? If I were just give myself like be a prostitute to the $1 billion revenue cortex, then I could do that and end up with a lot of stories to tell about how I had to regain traction and get my health back and get my life back together, then that's a potential option. But I see myself there. That's kind of the vision where it's like $1 billion cortex, potentially more businesses building, but not sacrificing what I love to do on a daily basis. I'm not
mm,
sacrificing my walks for anything. I'm not sacrificing the gym for anything. I'm not sacrificing my relationships for anything. I am not sacrificing working any more than 4 hours a day for something that is not new or that never comes back down to baseline. I'm happy to work 12 hours a day when something really needs my attention and it's going to lead to something and it's a calculated decision, but I need to come out of that state and I need to
mm,
reach equilibrium again and live the ideal lifestyle that is the only reason I'm building all this stuff for.
mm. Okay, that's an interesting point because from an outside perspective, you've quote unquote made it, right? You've achieved the
Mm.
lifestyle where you are at financial freedom, from my perspective, at a very young age, where you can work 3 to 4 hours a day. And so, my question is, since it seems like you have your ideal lifestyle, why push for more?
Yeah. I mean, what else is there to do, man? Like you just get comfortable like you would in a 9 to 5. Like there's a reason you
Mm,
hate the 9 to 5. Why am I not going to keep pushing for more?
mm,
The thing that always gets me is like the comments when someone launches a product or like you see it occasionally where it's like, oh, if you make so much money doing this, why'd you decide to sell a course around it? And it's like to make more money. Obviously, that's reason number one. Reason number two is it's fun and I like helping more people and I receive a lot from that. Like it brings a lot of value and meaning to my life. Third, I just want to do something different. Like I want to build something. I'm allowed to build something for my business. I have focused on my health because the other argument is like, why don't you go do something better with your time? Like focus on your health, focus on I'm already doing that on a daily basis. Like
yeah.
I'm doing that too and building the business. So that's the main thing is you're it's reversing entropy. It's fighting against entropy by evolving, by pursuing a new goal and expanding and evolving to reach that new goal. And you do that until you go up the spiral or you reach stage 9 of ego development or you fucking evaporate and become one with reality. I don't know. There's just never a point in stopping because if the flow state is the most enjoyable state, or it is, or just peak experiences in general are the most enjoyable state, and that only comes from growth, expansion, pursuing new goals, then by not pursuing something more and just building yourself into this metaphorical 9 to 5 of like comfort and repetition, yeah, you have to pursue new goals continuously, and that's not a bad thing, because it's only a bad thing for people to that expect it to end someday. Like,
Mm,
problems are never going to end. It's never going to end. Once you reach the goal, there's another one. Once you reach this certain level, there's another one. Until you die. That's
mm,
what you do. That's what brings meaning to your life. There's goal and there's problem. Problem equals suffering, goal equals fulfillment. And the ones that you choose, the goal and the accompanying problem, that's how you kind of control the meaning and suffering in your life.
mm. Yeah, I think it might have been you that said it. Like the goal you choose is the axis of your suffering. It might have been you. I don't know. I saw that
I
somewhere.
I said something very similar, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure I got the idea from Naval. I believe it's
Mm,
in the almanac of Naval Ravikant. I don't know if that's
mm,
the exact wording, um, but I know that something similar is in there, where it's
mm.
like goals and purposes are like that's what creates suffering. So choose the right one. Um, I spun it, and yeah, so both are very similar.
Gotcha. Yeah, the curious thing for me, as I've been on and off some type of spiritual path, is being ambitious about the future, being ambitious about goals without attaching to them. And so I'm curious your thoughts on that in regards to striving for goals without attachment. And I'm also
Mm,
curious, I want to provoke a question here. If if you everything you've built evaporated today, what would your internal state be?
damn, I had an answer, and then when you said that, that kind of ruined my answer. I was gonna say I personally don't think it's a bad thing to be attached to something good. Like, I don't see good desire as bad. Your reaction to it can be bad. Like, having an open mind about it, it's like it's I don't know if this is a paradox, or it's like the ultimate duality is like firm beliefs held loosely, where it's like I can be attached to this goal and it can be a part of my survival, and that's like what I'm working towards. That's part of my identity, and that's a good part of my identity. But at the same time, if I were to lose it all tomorrow, I have the mental ability to let go immediately, right then and there. Right,
Mm,
I'm attached to it, I'm holding on until I have to let go. And so that's really what I think about it, where if I were to lose everything today, personally, I think I'd deal with it better than most people, but I'd be a fucking wreck, man. Like, I would be an absolute wreck for a bit, but then I
yeah.
would get back on my feet, and I'd use all of the practices that I've learned so far in terms of mindfulness and like philosophy and understanding. I have that mind built that would allow me to pick myself back up and use that to fuel a new endeavor and reach something new. But I'd be lying if I wouldn't say I'd be absolutely wrecked.
Yeah. I admire your honesty with that too, because I'd say it is the ideal to just be completely non-attached. You're like, I'm just a vessel for this work, right?
Mm.
And maybe that is stage 9 of ego development. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
on that theme, yeah.
another thing is that I don't think I'd call myself enlightened. I haven't had an experience that is like, oh, I'm enlightened. But at the same time, from people that I would see as enlightened, they have mentioned many times where it's like enlightened people are allowed to be mad. They're allowed to be sad. Like, you're allowed to feel it, you're allowed to feel into the human experience. Like, it's kind of just weird. It's like it is what it is, but I'm still feeling that emotion. I'm not suppressing it. Where it's like if a loved one dies, it is what it is. And that's a profound lesson that you internalize, and you're able to move past it. But it's not like you just don't feel emotion relating to that. You're feeling
Yeah.
it, and you're allowing it to like shape your future and how you move toward the future, where like you get to choose in that moment, like, I'm going to remember this person, and I'm going to carry out some of what they left behind. But now they're gone. And it is what it is. And we need to move on. And me sitting here and dwelling on it isn't going to bring them back to life.
Yeah. There's this quote from Anthony DeMello. I think it's in Awareness where he says, before enlightenment, I was depressed. After enlightenment,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still depressed. That one always messes with my head a little bit.
Yeah, you're
Um,
like, what?
yeah, but that you
Yeah.
hear the deeper truth. It's non-attachment to those feelings. It's the emotions are real, but they do not define me. I am not depressed. I'm experiencing it, but
Mhm.
I am beyond that. Um, and on this theme of like self-actualization and ego development and all of this stuff, from 99.9% of people's perspectives, they look at you as like self-actualized, right?
Mm.
Mind, body, spirit, all of it, right? I'm curious for you, is there a gap between where you are at now and a more actualized version of yourself? And if so, what is the gap?
Yes, there's a gap. Um, I would say it's just mending like little insecurities or like the gap between the goals that I choose at this point. Like it's the gap between the goals that I choose rather than the gap between the goals that were assigned to me just like biologically or based on survival. Like I have to make money. That's a goal that everyone has. And if they don't fulfill that, they can't create their own goal within that domain. Like they haven't overcome it. Uh, so I think that's the main difference is it never really ends. The problems relating to it don't end. It's just I am where I am now. I personally see problems with that, but only because I have goals. Like I don't even sometimes I don't even have a label for the goals. If I have a problem in my life, then I have a goal. A lot of people like think, oh, do I need to set goals for all of these different things in my life? Or they may think like when I always say like, oh, I have a goal for this, a goal for this. It's not that I have like an exact clear goal. It's that I have a problem in my life that I want to solve. And that means there's a goal that I'm working towards, right? If you have a problem, but not a goal, then you're not working towards anything. And if you are working towards something and you say you don't have goals, then you're just unaware of what the goal is. So that's really the main thing is like, I still have problems with my body. I still have problems with other things. It just gives me something to work on. It gives me something to have fun doing. And yeah, does that answer it?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. Um, yeah, it's like when you set the goal, the problems start to reveal themselves. So for me now, and this is on the theme of responsibility, which I want to dive into a little bit too. Like as I'm taking on increasing levels of responsibility, cohort, cortex, one-on-one coaching, living in my own apartment, trying to like grow up, etc. Now new problems reveal themselves to me. It's like, oh, your habit of staying up late and not being able to get up with your alarm. Now it's a problem because you have a reason to get
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
right? And so that's why like increasing levels of responsibility, I don't see a better way to self-actualize, personal development, etc. So something that I admire about you is how you are able to bear this amount of responsibility, and it's been increasing for the past couple years. And so I'm curious, like, because the pressure or the perceived pressure of responsibility has gotten to me at times. Like I had actually at the start of this year, after I moved to Austin, I had my new cohort starting. I was like helping with Cortex. A lot of shit was going on. And I like spiraled into an anxiety attack, first time in my life. And I took it as a sign of like, okay, my systems decayed toward entropy. And I need to become the person who can manage that responsibility. And you had an Instagram post that was physical strength is the progressive overload of weight or strength, and mental strength is built through the progressive overload of responsibility. So
Yeah, yeah.
given your that was so good by the way given
Thank you.
your level of current responsibility, like are there ever times where you're like holy shit, like there's so much pressure, like I don't
All
know,
the
like can I
time, man.
handle this?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it ebbs and flows, right? Like you have those periods where you're like, fuck, like I don't know if I can do any of this. But that's just a sign to peel back. That's a sign to cut, right?
Mm, mm.
Like when you feel fat and sluggish, it's time to cut down. So it's the same for like responsibility, where if you can't handle it and you're a bit over, well, it depends. There's nuance there where if like you're over exaggerating, then yeah, you need to stop being a little bitch. But at the same time, if you're like, you know that you have the right amount of responsibility because you are in this flow state more often, like you have the clarity on how to actually lift that emotional weight from that. If you take on too much, but it's a short period of time, it's a sprint, then yeah, stick with that. But if it's like just ongoing for too long, that's what people classify as burnout. And yeah, you need to cut back and potentially evolve your systems or do something new, right? Or look for a new path to take.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, responsibility is one of the core tenets of like manhood and masculinity.
Mhm.
So, the term masculinity gets thrown out a lot right now. There's a lot of people that portray masculinity on the internet, but they might not embody it. Whereas I know Naval, there was a little clip on Instagram. It was like masculinity is being able to bear responsibility without needing approval, without um, flashy cars and all this stuff. So for you, like, I know you're not necessarily like a masculinity self improvement YouTuber type, but I think you can dive into there a little bit. What does masculinity look like for you, and how can someone and how can yourself embody true masculinity?
I think this one's difficult. I think it's just the varying masculinity and femininity is like the genders of reality, right? It's not the sex, it's not male or female. Like there's varying levels in each. I like things divide, reunite, collapse. Like we're in, whether people like it or not, we're in a culture where there are more masculine females, there are more feminine men, and those people are going to match up together because the polarity's there. But there are traditionally more masculine men that pair with traditionally more feminine women, and they also have a good relationship. People can have good relationships if that polarity is met and the matches are made. With that, I do feel like masculinity is leading and femininity is following and nurturing along the
Mm,
way. And I do
mm,
feel like when those roles are fulfilled for the person that is more feminine, like what I'm saying here is that, again, that's not divided by like sex. It's not always the man leading, it's not always the woman following. I'm saying that polarity has to be there and it shifts. Sometimes like the girlfriend's going to lead. Sometimes the boyfriend's going to follow. But overall, on the larger scale, what is the outcome? How does it level out? Is the man more masculine? Is he the 80-20? Because he also has feminine sides to him, whether you like it or not, masculinity, bros. Like you have those qualities. Like you cool down to drink a beer after a hard day of work. That's feminine. That's not pursuing your purpose or goal. You're resting from it. That's the feminine in my eyes. So it really depends on the individual. But at the end of the day, I genuinely don't think those classifications matter. I think that you need to experiment and go through the trial and error enough to understand yourself on your own level. And if learning the concepts of masculinity, femininity, and all of these different things help you to identify what you like in yourself most or what makes your life the best, then I would go and do that. And you can understand it from that lens. But to me, it's just a lens. Like if I continuously expose myself to the unknown, I self reflect, I understand what I don't want, I go towards what I want, I course correct and iterate over time, then I have mastered myself and I understand the world from somewhat a better lens. And that's kind of it.
I like that perspective. I can tell we've both been influenced by David Dita, Way the Superior
Data.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that book literally last week. I had a very introspective weekend. I won't dive too deep into it. But I went to like an EDM rave, and
Yeah.
I I felt connected to back to like my masculine core, like that I've never felt before in my entire life. And I read that
Mm.
book, and then I realized, okay, progression in business, progression as a creator, progression as a leader, it all ties back into like maturity and being able to take on more responsibility. And that's why I, as like a younger dude, and maybe this is good market research for you, but like I've always looked up to yourself, Hamza, like these other older dudes who can be that guiding light of masculinity. So I know like a lot of your content has been like shifting towards more writing, online business, etc. Do you envision a future where maybe you ever start to dive more into just like life advice? I know it's all mixed in, but
I could see it. That was kind of, I don't know. I feel like I still haven't like achieved the purpose of business yet. I feel like I still have things to do there,
mm,
and cortex and writing, and but eventually, I don't know, once I'm like Naval level, then yeah, I'll probably just do philosophy full time, just sit back, think, meditate
yeah,
on like certain ideas and then try to package it up in a good way. I feel like I would enjoy that. Yeah. That's like
yeah,
what I see as work in my future. Like retirement for me, when I'm working less, is just like writing what I want to write, like putting out what I want to put out.
yeah, same. Actually, I thought about this a lot. Um, like for me, the ideal future is just like writing a ton of books
Yeah.
and just like
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe speaking. That would be the ideal life. Now I do love the coaching aspect and the leading aspect, but all that external responsibility, business, all of that, like the Naval schedule he talks about right now, how he doesn't even use a clock, like he doesn't do any meetings. He's just living in like deep time and deep flow state. I love that to be my existence. And so I think what's interesting is like, do you define a preset point of when I'm going to transition to that? Because the trap I see is that's the ideal future, but you get on this treadmill where you're like, no, I need to get this number or I need to launch this business. So like, is there like a number or an achievement where you're like, okay, I can be done?
Honestly, I don't know. It depends because I really like building things too. I think I'd have to try it for like a month and then like experiment and decide at some point. If we're talking like a specific number in the bank, see, I don't know. Like I like making money. Like it brings a lot of joy to my life. Like I don't think I'm working towards an end with the money. It's not like, oh, 20 million will set me right for the rest of my life. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
it will, but at the same time, it's like I can make more. I can do more with it. I can build more. Like I can donate if I want to, or I can just build products and services that probably benefit humanity more than me donating to charity would, right? So, yeah, money's a tool, and I like to use it on building things that improve my life and others.
Yeah, I think the distinction there is you see it as an infinite game. Like business is a
Yeah.
game you play to keep playing. You don't play to win necessarily. I still haven't figured that out for myself yet, but I'm much newer than you, so we'll see how it evolves. Um, I wanna know a little bit more about your personality. So if we were in high school together, like who would you have been in high school, and like who did you think of yourself as?
I feel like I was the same person, honestly. I wasn't very talkative. I had a very close friend group of like two, three people. Um, I did decent in high school. I played basketball, but I didn't really like doing that. I just liked going to the gym after school and like eating my protein shake or drinking my protein shake after, like living the bro life really. Because dude, when I was talking yesterday about this um with my mom on the phone, and I was asking if she remembered like what my bulking diet was when I went on my first bulk in high school. And it's like I would wake up 3 hours before school because I wanted to beat my friend in Halo 3. So I would play that for like an hour and a half just to like get above him because he would only play
Interesting.
after school and he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
better than me. So I'd get online before that and like get above him. Yeah, it was funny. Same
Uh,
with like Call of Duty.
I see a
And
massive parallel to the
yeah,
business side.
yeah, yeah, really. Uh but then after that, I'd like shower and then I'd make breakfast. And my breakfast was like 6 eggs, a can of tuna in the eggs, 2 frozen burritos, 2 packets of oatmeal with milk. And I would just feel like fucking shit before I went to school because I'm like, I need to eat 4,000 calories. I need to get all of this in because all I'm going to have
Yeah.
at school is a little chicken sandwich at lunch with a milk or 2 milks because I would always grab two. And then I'd go home, hit the gym with my friend, and we were doing like a powerlifting program at the time, and then come back home, drink a protein shake, uh, do homework if I had to. I procrastinated on that too. I wouldn't do assignments until like the day before they were due, and then uh, what is it? Play video games for the rest of the
Yeah.
day.
I love it. The simplicity of the high school lifestyle, but at the same time, the obsession with like whatever the goal is. That's the common theme. I'd be the
Mhm.
same way for like sports mostly. Like I think sports for me where you're bodybuilding, where it's like, okay, everybody's gonna get to the gym at 6. I gotta get there at 5. Like it was just that
Yeah,
obsession.
yeah.
And it's interesting. Like I think Formosi has that frame. Like the three traits of ultra successful people are massive superiority complex, massive insecurity, and the ability to delay gratification. And it is a common theme, which is interesting. And I think it's probably some inner work to work through. But I'm curious about now. So like that's 10 years ago in high school. That was who you were. Now, would you say that there's a gap between online writer, thinker, creator, entrepreneur, philosopher Dan Coe versus like the true Daniel? I'm gonna butcher the last name. Kronishek,
Koenig sleep.
Kronixley,
Koenig sleep. Yeah.
Konigslee. Okay, yes. Is there a gap?
Uh, no, not really. I would just say that my online persona is the person I would be if I was talking to someone that was interested in those things.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if my friends were also interested in the things that I like to learn about personally, then yeah, I'd probably be the same person talking to them. I wouldn't talk to them like I was presenting them like a YouTube video. But in real life, like I mean, you can ask anyone I've met. It's like I'm pretty calm. People say I'm stoic. I'm just like pretty quiet. I don't really speak unless spoken to, unless I really have something that I'm excited about and I want to share. Uh, but yeah, I wouldn't say there isn't that big of a distinction. It's just the online character is more curated towards the things that I love talking about and sharing it with people that potentially share those same interests and packaging it up in a way that is valuable
Hmm.
and not just like conversation.
Yeah. I could sense that I think when we met in December that like okay like this is actually who he is. Sometimes like you meet people that are creators or whatever and like they're very different in person than they portray themselves to be
Mm.
online. But I sense with you it was like a very close authentic gap if there was one at all, which I didn't really sense. Um something the reason I also asked that is because I noticed this in myself. I can attach so much importance and like tie up my entire identity in what I do, but I try to remind myself it's not who I am. And so my
Mm.
test of that is am I able to detach completely and surrender into the present moment without thinking about it? And so for you, like are you able to ever completely just let go of it?
Of what?
of of the business, of the personal brand, of the YouTube, of everything that's going on? Are you able to just
Oh,
sometimes completely relax into like the present moment?
yeah, I take a nap most days of the week. And I just put on like this like YouTube soothing sounds thing. And I just sit there and I breathe into my belly. And dude, it's I don't know what it is, but I go into like a coma. Like I've gotten really good at like disconnecting where I just lay there and dude, I have like dreams. Like it feels like my eyelids are like screens and there's just stuff that's playing. Like sometimes it's just like the screen of my phone. Like I don't see any phone or any of that. It's just like scrolling by my eyes. And I'm just sitting there like observing it, like half asleep. Super weird. I don't even know how to explain it, but like I get into this like half coma and then I'm assuming I fall asleep. And then my alarm wakes me up and I'm like out of it. And then from then I'm still kind of disconnected until it comes back to me and I realize, oh, I have to do this thing. Okay, time to get up.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. It reminds me of that book you mentioned earlier, Rest by Alex Sujong Kim. Like how forget who it was. One of the famous artists would be able to just like snap himself into a
Yeah.
nap within a second, like because he had so much control over his consciousness. That's interesting. I might have to try that midday. But that's proof out here for everybody. Like you can build a $4 million a year one person business and still
And
take
take a nap.
naps. Yeah, and you're probably doing
Yeah.
better because of it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I've started this past week. I only took like 1 to 2 last week, and I could sense my body like craving it. And I don't know if that's because it craves the rest or if it's just become a habit. Um, so it's interesting. I really enjoy them, but I think I need to get back into like walking as well, because that's like me taking out a walking block in exchange for like a nap block.
Mm. Do you schedule every hour of your day or do you
Oh, no,
like
no, no, no.
no?
No, I just have like I have a set like what's the word? Like way, not like a set schedule, but a set order of when things are going to come and when I'm going to do them. So in the morning, I get up, take my dog down. I don't shower because I'm going to do cardio later. I take him down, come up, sit down, start outlining whatever I have to do, like highest priority work. And sometimes it's just like getting on and catching up on some work if I don't want to do the newsletter that day. Most of the time, it's going to be the newsletter. And then from there, I like transition into a few other tasks. So I check in on different like clients, communities, et cetera, and then go down, do cardio. I've been doing cardio for like 30 minutes every morning, and then come up, shower or eat, shower, and then do other work and try to finish that and calls before 1. And then 1, hit the gym. That's a break. I can work longer if I want to, but then I can also go on walks. I can just like take a nap, go get food, go do whatever I need to do.
Yeah, I like that. I wrote a thread on this last week. Like I've been playing around with similar things, like deep juxtaposition, I called it, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
the morning deeply structured, deeply focused, but then the afternoon
Yeah.
deeply spontaneous and open. I think
Yeah.
that balance is key. So that's interesting. You try to end your calls before 1, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming keep them after like 10 or 11.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting. Okay. And you're up at like what, 5?
5:36. It
Okay.
depends. It's been closer to 6, but I really like waking up at 5. That makes me feel like I'm getting a head start.
Mm-hmm. Same as playing Halo. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've been on the same wave lately, like 5 a.m. wake up. And it's interesting because for me, I was never a morning person. But when you're
Right.
obsessed and like you love what you're working on, I'm sometimes getting up before 5. And
Yeah.
the coolest thing to me about the entire one person business model is I would say 80 to 90% of it does not feel like work to me. Like writing a newsletter for me
Right.
every morning is not work. Writing a thread is not work. It's just like pure, like I would rather do nothing. Like I woke up today on a Sunday at 5 and wrote the newsletter for an hour, and it
Yeah.
was like
Yeah. That's
so
what I do.
enjoyable.
It's like what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is like we finally found the thing that we want to do, work that doesn't feel like work. And it's the same thing with me. It's like I know that I've quote unquote made it when I wake up and there's nothing I'd rather do than work. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do anything else. It's like sometimes my mom asks me, it's like, "Oh, did you go like do something? Did you go on vacation this week? Like, did you take any breaks?" And I always like think, and I'm like, I don't think she gets it. Like, I like this more than almost anything. Like, I
Yeah.
like what I'm doing in my life more than I'd like something on a vacation.
Yeah. The ultimate goal for me is to like build yourself a life you don't need to escape from because all these little
Yeah.
things are escaping. A vacation is subtle escaping. Netflix is escaping. Well, there's also nuance with that too, like just relaxing.
Oh,
Um,
I just chill out. Yeah. I watch
yeah.
like we've been watching How I Met Your Mother. Uh it's like usually an hour, hour and a half before bed, and just
Yeah.
chill out. Like there's nothing else to do. Like I'm not going to fill that with work because 4 hour workday. Like I'm going to abide by that. Like I just don't have anything else to do, and I don't mind sitting and watching a funny TV show.
Yeah. No, it's refreshing. And I think it's really important actually for people to hear that because the self improvement community, which I would say you're a part of, but maybe more sophisticated self improvement community, is
Thanks.
like like you have to completely go dopamine detox. If you play video game, like you're screwed. And I was on a coaching call with a client. He's like a year younger than me, or maybe the same age. And he was feeling so much guilt about how like he like plays video games. And I was like, dude, I play video games still. Like
Yeah,
it's I mean, like
I did the
it's
past.
tough.
I played, dude. I played well, not League of Legends specifically, but Team Fight Tactics, which is like, I haven't played that in maybe like 6 months. Like I haven't played a video game in like 6 months. I have nothing against them, but I played Team Fight Tactics from the moment that I started uh like my web design stuff up until like 6 months ago. It was on and off. It wasn't every
Whoa.
day. It was usually like wasn't every day. Sometimes it was like just one match, so 30 minutes. Other days it was like an hour. Uh some nights it was like 2, 3 hours, but I still got shit done. Like
Yeah.
it didn't impact me because that came after me doing everything that I wanted to do. And it wasn't even seen as a reward. It's just like, how am I going to spend this time? Because I've already done everything else. And me doing more isn't going to help my work.
Hmm.
So it's just like, how am I going to chill, relax, get on uh what's the app? Discord. Discord with my editor. So we would talk business occasionally, like on there, but we just play Team Fight Tactics and
That's so
just
sick.
chill out. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, you earn that freedom in the afternoon with discipline and structure in the morning. Because if it starts taking away from your progress or your focus, then
Oh,
it's a
it's cut
problem.
out
Yeah,
immediately.
it
Yeah.
has to be. But for me, like when I was building my first free course, first cohort, I was working like 11 or 12 hours just to get it done. And at night, I would go play NCAA football for 2 hours every night and listen to Naval podcasts like while I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
playing.
yeah. Yeah.
That's like I see it as a productive use of your time. It just gets me into flow state.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I wish I would have done that. Damn. Maybe I'll re-download it and just watch like actualized lectures
That's what
playing a
I
match.
do. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I do. Because you're
Nice.
self-educating while getting into flow state. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah, true. Oh, I wonder if that like helps with learning too.
Mm,
Because then you can just like, well, you probably can't pause it, but you could like have the idea, go into Cortex Quick Capture or have that open and type it in there.
yeah, that's what I do. I have my phone with my project open next to me while I'm playing
Yeah.
Xbox, and then an idea will come and be like, all right, I got to add this to the curriculum.
Nice, nice, nice. Hell yeah.
But okay, on this theme of like degeneracy a little bit, because people would label that as degeneracy, even though it's not. Um, what is your? I know you've talked about this a lot in the past. Like, what's your current stance on partying, going out, drinking, concerts?
Mm.
Because I know, at least from following you from a while ago, you used to be big into like EDM concerts and stuff. How about now?
Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of fallen off of it. Like I don't really care for it. I haven't had a drink in like I wasn't a huge drinker before, but I haven't had a drink in maybe like 4 months, if I could put a number on it. But like I don't know. I don't think it matters. It's the same with anything. Like if it's taking away from your progress and you like one, you have a goal. So you know that if it's taking away from your progress. If you don't have a goal, then like the drinking isn't the problem. You not having a goal is the problem. And then once you have the goal and that goal shines a light on drinking being a problem, then yeah, maybe you should stop. If it doesn't really impact it, or you understand from a big picture all of the moving pieces of your life and you're able to manage that without lying to yourself, then yeah, sure, go ahead and do it. Uh, in terms of festivals, again, dude, I hate staying up past like 10:30, 11. Like it just
Yeah.
wrecks me now. Like I don't like it. Whether I drink or not, I just don't like staying up because I like waking up by 6 maximum to start writing. Like that's when I write my best. And so I want to be awake for that. So haven't been to a festival in a bit. If the time comes where I want to go to one, like I'm not going to say, oh, I don't go to festivals or I don't drink or I don't do any of this, because something else from awareness is like once you renounce it, you're tied to it. Like I just genuinely
Mm,
don't care at this point. Like I have no
yeah.
desire to have a drink at dinner. I have no desire to go to the parties. If I eventually have the desire, then maybe that's a lesson I need to learn, and I'm going to go and drink and have fun at the party.
Yeah.
But until that time comes, that's just kind of how it is right now.
Yeah, because your goal is so much more important than any of that stuff. It just makes it
Yeah.
obsolete. It's like, why would I do that? I'm
Yeah. It
curious
takes a while
also.
to come around to that.
Oh, definitely. And I think it's the increasing level of responsibility with the goal too, where it's like
Yes.
other
Yes.
people are relying on me. It's not just me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, how does my, like, if I'm hungover, how does that impact? Like, I'm all fucking stressed going into like messaging people. I know my messages just sound off. I sound tired. I sound lazy. I'm impacting my business from the bottom up in a bad way. And yeah, it just doesn't make sense to do that, especially once you have a team taking on that like more responsibility, because now it's not like, I don't know, more people are on the line for like the consequences impact more than you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious if you're willing to talk about it. Last little topic here. Like, what is your experience or thoughts with psychedelics? Because for me, they've
Mm.
been very impactful in terms of opening my mind to new ways of being and new topics that I'm interested in, like philosophy, spirituality, etc. I'm curious your experience and thoughts.
I honestly haven't done them as much as I'd want to. Like
Interesting.
I've microdosed a few times. I've done like a DMT pen, and like the lens of reality like came off, but I don't think I like went as far as I could have. Uh, I took back like some lessons where I think it's very helpful for like reframing and realigning what you're studying, what you're ingesting, what you're closing your mind off to, and kind of reversing that so you can move forward. But aside from that, I honestly haven't used them as much as I'd liked. And I probably should more, because at the moment I'm kind of blanking in terms of like lessons that it's taught me. Um, so I think a more intentional trip is to come, or more intentional trips. Like maybe that's future Dan is just Terrence McKenna.
I think about that for myself a lot, dude. Like
Yeah.
the people who honestly I just gravitate towards. Like I love the business stuff. I've been following your content, Hormozy Naval, so much. But where does my curiosity just take me in my free time? It's like Alan Watts, Timothy
Mm,
Leary, Ram Dass, Terrence McKenna, like all those names.
yeah.
It's really interesting. They have had a really profound impact in my life. And I was actually very surprised to hear that answer. Not as much as I would like to. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It hasn't been that much, honestly. I would say like two mushroom trips as a whole that were like actual mushroom trips. And a lot of the lessons from those ones are funny. I mean, not funny, fuzzy.
Yeah.
And
How long
other than
ago
that,
were
like
those?
microdosing, this is probably within the span of like 4 years.
Hmm,
So nothing too recently aside from the DMT, but that lasted like 10 seconds.
interesting.
So it's like very
Yeah.
quick.
Yes. I
You're
haven't
just
had that
like, I'm
experience.
in alien land. And then you're out of it and you're like, that was weird.
Yeah, I have a guess at who probably gave that to you, but I'm not gonna expose him on the podcast. Um, but yeah,
Mm,
that's very fascinating.
yeah.
We'll have to maybe we'll talk about this more off air, um, the psychedelic stuff. But before we hop off, if one more question for another young dude listening around my age, like 20 years old, 20, 21, 22, you 27 years old now, like with all this success, accomplishments, etc. If you could go back and tell your 22-year-old self one thing, not necessarily to change his course, but just as a little reminder, what would you tell him?
I don't know. I don't think anything would like register, where I'd probably just say something like keep going, but I'd kind of want to just like pop up in the corner of the room, freak him out a bit. And then when like I know that he's made the realization where it's like, oh my God, that's me from the future, I'd just be like, I'd give a thumbs up and then I'd like be out.
So
It's like you're doing the
mysterious.
right thing. Like, yeah, yeah, make him like shit his pants a bit.
That's interesting. How do you view that 22-year-old version of yourself versus the version of you now, 5 years later? What's the biggest difference?
Not much, honestly, man. Not gonna lie. Like I was learning like all the skills at that time, like Photoshop, digital art, freelancing. I was working. Well, I don't know if it was when I was 22, but I worked at LA Fitness as like a front desk person. I
No
was in the
way.
gym. I was eating ground beef and rice, like trying to get big. And yeah, honestly, man, not much has changed. Just my understanding of everything that I've been doing has like expanded.
Fascinating. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, nice, man. I really appreciate you doing this. And of course, everybody knows your stuff. Everybody knows who you are. But is there anything you'd like to plug, promote, talk about? This will go out on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, by the way.
Yeah. I just say Cortex. Like, look out for Cortex, get on the email list, join Cortex University if you want to. Jack's in there as an educator. Um, the app will be launching relatively soon, few months to the public, but we have so much planned. It's going to be cool. Cortex, for those that don't know, second brain software. We're going to be helping writers first. That's like our target market is to help people write better. And yeah, it'll be big. It'll be good. That's
Yeah,
it.
and just to add on to that, I'm more on the education side of things. I don't know much about software, but the education side of it, I mean, I'm of course biased, but after taking a lot of different programs, like this is the Harvard of the creator economy. Like everything you
Let's
need about
go.
online business is in there. So, anyways, man, I
Nice.
appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, of course, man. I appreciate you having me.
Of
Let's blow
course,
this shit up.
let's do
Get the
it.
views. Everyone who's still watching, like, comment, do all that shit.
Yes, I appreciate it.